kick-ass switch, putting the K in magic. I'm Joanna DeVoe, and you're watching another episode of Every Which Way. This time featuring Kate Northrup, the author of Money, a love story. And I know so many of us here, we are all about the love, especially the self-love, and we are very spiritual. We're a very spiritual community, and we're all about finding our purpose and living on purpose, being of service. But so many of us, even though we are living on purpose and being of service and practicing self-love, we still struggle with money. And there's a lot of mixed messages in the spiritual community about that. I see people saying things like it's not spiritual to be focused on money, and it's wrong for healers or spiritual teachers to charge for their services. And I think that's wrong. And I think that Kate's book, Money, a Love Story, can offer a lot of healing around those misconceptions and misinformation. So that is why I wanted to talk to her today, and that is why I am so excited to present this interview to you all. So without any further ado, here she is, the beautiful Kate Northrup. Hi Kate, welcome to Every Which Way.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, this is going to be so much fun, which is totally contradictory to the way I usually think about money, but you are a really fun person, and you just came out with a book called Money, a Love Story. So this is exciting, and I'm all excited to hear what you have to say about how we can fall in love with money and make it fun.
Exactly. Yeah, it's such an important thing to bring fun and love to the money conversation because it can be such a source of stress and shame and anger and resentment and all this icky stuff in people's lives. So I really wanted my book to be an invitation to have a loving, conscious relationship with your money.
Yeah, what made you decide to, I know you from Glimpse TV, and the first thing I think of when I think of Kate Northrup is laughing, because you are like pure joy. The laughter, even the tears sometimes, it all just kind of like mushes together and flows freely. So I was a little bit surprised when you took the money turn, but I was excited to take it with you because I'm that kind of person, and there aren't a lot of people like you speaking for us.
Well, you know, I'm happy to bring an energy that's not usually brought to the table to the world of personal finance. Mm-hmm. Okay, here we go.
Yay! Okay, so we just froze. We were talking about you being fun and awesome and spiritually inclined, and then talking about money.
Yeah, well, so often in the personal growth world and in the spirituality world, money is left out of the conversation, and we have to deal with money every day, and money is the currency through which we can do things in the world. I mean, most powerful activities that we want to engage in to make change require money, and so I want to bring money to the conversation of personal growth, to the conversation of spirituality, allow it to be a foundation upon which to have our spiritual journey and a tool to practice those concepts about gratitude and forgiveness and manifesting and all of those things, because it's such a great barometer for how we're doing, because money is either there or it's not. And it's a really obvious gauge of how things are going in terms of our abundance mentality and manifesting.
Yeah, I've been doing the whole law of attraction thing for so many years and been a very spiritual person, but when I found that I started to try to apply it to money, I got the smackdown from the universe that was like, you're not as good at this as you think you are.
Well, what's really important to know is that somehow we think that money is different because our culture has associated it with being greedy or being, the big corporate bad guys or something. But money is really just a stand-in for what we value. It's a way to trade value for value and have that exchange going on. Mm-hmm. And so when we want to make more money, what we need to do is simply add more value to the world. And that's really a spiritual practice, is looking at the world through the eyes of, who can I help? How can I add more value to somebody else's life? And when you do that, and then you're open to receiving what's going to come back, which is all good stuff, financial and, otherwise, you can be in that flow a little bit more easier and make more money. And you'll be better at managing the money you've already made, because when you see the money you've made as an exchange for the value you've created in the world, you will take it more seriously and you'll value it more. And you also will know that if money is ever feeling like you want more of it, you can always make more of it because you are the source. You're the source of creating value in other people's lives, and so you are the source of money.
I love that. It also reminds me that so many people in my audience, and myself included, we offer value, but a lot of us, we are of value for free. We give away our services. There's a lot of healers here. There's a lot of life coaches that are just building their businesses, and just especially women, I notice, like we just give away and give away and give away and give away. So where do you draw the line in being of value and actually valuing yourself?
Yeah, well, I think that to give the most value in the world, it has to start with valuing yourself. And so if you're out there and you're feeling like, I'm giving a lot of value, but I'm not getting anything in exchange, it probably is because you're not valuing yourself enough. So a real practical thing you can do if you're a healer or life coach or something along those lines is to gather up those success stories. And you might need to ask for them, but ask for testimonials and ask for the results that people have had as a result of working with you. And you can start to build up a file for yourself so that anytime you're feeling like, is this working? Because running your own business is hard, and being out there, it's not for the faint of heart. And there are going to be days when you feel a little low. So you can build that file for yourself of all the people you've helped and be reminded, oh my gosh, my work is so valuable. And then you can read it anytime you need to go ask for a higher rate or ask for a raise or whatever. And in that file, you want to put also not just the stories of people who've come to say, your work was so valuable to me, but also begin to have a daily practice of listing the reasons that you value yourself, like why I value myself, and also the ways you've added value to the world that day. Because when you start to put your attention and energy and focus on that, of course, it grows, just like the law of attraction and manifesting says.
Yeah. I get that. And I like something, I actually have seen this debated on Facebook a lot, which I think is very hurtful to our community. And I like that you're putting a book out there that can kind of balance this out. And that is that spiritual people should not charge for their services. And they should just be of service freely. I don't know what they're going to eat or where they're going to live or what they're going to wear, but I see people arguing this point, and I don't resonate with that. I don't understand that.
It doesn't make any sense. Why? Because, I think that on some level, any work that's of service and to heal the world, even if it's fixing cars, is spiritual work, I mean, anything you're doing that comes from a place of wanting to make somebody else's life better is spiritual work. And if you're adding value to somebody's life on a spiritual level or otherwise, you should receive value in exchange for that. It just makes sense. And if you're not, you're actually messing with the flow of abundance. You're actually blocking the ability for abundance to ebb and flow. It's like if somebody pays you a compliment and you deflect that compliment and you're like, somebody says, oh, you're so beautiful. Oh, well, I really feel like crap today. Or, oh my God, I'm so tired. I look awful. Or whatever. You've just blocked the flow. They're trying to give you a gift and you are basically shoving it back in their face. And it makes you feel icky and it makes the other person feel icky. And that's the same thing when we're not able to receive value in exchange for the value we've provided. We're messing with the flow of the universe and we're actually going counter to the way that everything wants to flow, which is value for value exchange and just ebbing back and forth between the two.
Don't pinch off the flow.
Don't pinch off the flow. Yeah, it's like a hose. It's like winding the hose like this when you won't accept help when it's given to you, when you won't receive a compliment, when you won't accept money in exchange for what your services are, and you can just unkink that hose and let the whole thing flow.
Nice. I love that this isn't just theory for you too, and that this is something that you had to learn in your life, and then that you share that example in your book with us, and which is so relatable, by the way. You talk about getting into a certain amount of debt and then getting out of that debt, which did it take 7 years? I feel like I read it took 7 years.
It didn't take 7 years, but that's interesting. 7 years, 7 is a cycle that is a really meaningful number. I'd have to go back in my life and see what did take 7 years, but getting into and out of the debt took me, started getting into debt when I was 22, and I paid it all off right after my 27th birthday. So it took 5 years, the whole shebang. So it was $20,000 worth of debt, and my own journey of getting into that and getting out of that was really a journey of self-discovery and a journey of self-love and compassion, and learning that beating ourselves up about something does not actually help us change it. And I spent a long time beating myself up for the debt and not being able to make sustainable change. And it wasn't until I started approaching it from a place of love and self-compassion that I was then able to really get a lot of momentum paying it off. And I paid it off within a matter of a couple of months after I made a critical shift, which was, if I can connect my financial consciousness, which I just couldn't, I was practicing consciousness in every other area of my life, but the financial piece, it just wasn't clicking. So I realized, okay, if I could connect financial consciousness with self-love and self-care, and use financial consciousness as an act of self-love, then maybe I can figure this out. And that was the critical shift. And that's what shifted everything for me. And I continue to upgrade. About 6 months ago, I had a speaking gig. I was teaching at a weekend workshop, and the speakers were going over, and the whole thing was a little bit disorganized. And I just went up to the organizer of the weekend, and I said, "Hey, I noticed you're going over, and I'm supposed to be in the second half and whatever. And I just wanted you to know you're welcome to just give the time to somebody else, because I know you need to keep on schedule." And one of the speakers had flown up from Florida, and I was like, just give the time to him. And I'll just be in the audience, which is great. And that speaker, who had flown up from Florida, came up to me during lunch, and he said, "I hear that you asked to give your time to me, and I want you to know, Kate, that people drove here to hear what you have to say, and if you don't get up there and own your space, you're taking that from them, and I will not take up your time. And what you have to say is valuable." And I was like, oh my gosh, the whole self-value thing, it's a journey. It's not like you ever finally make it where you're like, yeah, I'm the shit forever. It's a journey, and I really had to catch myself and say, oh yeah, okay, I will do my talk, and I will take up time, I will take up space. And it ended up being great, but it took him reminding me of that and seeing how I was selling myself short.
What an angel. What a great person
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah, I love that. I think the journey thing, I'm doing this whole week on being a late bloomer, and for me, money is one of those things that would be on my list of what makes me a late bloomer. And what you're saying right now is so absolutely true, because it's something I've been working on now, for a couple of years, and it's a process. You have these epiphanies, and there's layers to it, and I'm guessing that you probably didn't grow up in as much of a poverty mentality as I did, because your mother is a phenomenal woman. You remind me of her, because she combines health and self-love together, and now you're doing the money and self-love together, and it's all kind of the same. But did you have those programs in place, maybe from, I don't know, the government, the TV, commercials, school?
I mean, I think it's in some ways impossible to avoid some of our cultural programming. And while my mom has a very abundance mindset, I also got some messages from other parts of my family that were a little bit more lack oriented. And then when my parents went through a divorce, I really noticed a lot of contrast in the ways that my mom and my dad dealt with money, and there was some not so great stuff that happened around the divorce around money. So I certainly don't have a rags to riches story. If people want that story, you got to read a different book. But I've had my own journey having to deal with some money demons and some beliefs. And I have to say, I've hung out with a lot of people who have, who don't make very much money at all or have no income. And then I've hung out with people who make 7 figures and 8 figures and really big money. And I will tell you, I've yet to meet somebody who isn't a little bit screwed up about their relationship with money. And so it's not really about how much you make. It's about how you relate to it. Mm-hmm. And you can have financial freedom earning $30,000 a year. And I know people who are earning $3 million or more a year who are not free because of their relationship to money. And so that's a really important learning. It's actually never about the money. It's just about how you relate to it.
Right. Yeah, I was wondering about how you went about changing that cultural programming, even though you say you weren't a rags to riches story. Everybody has their little thing, and culture definitely puts out those messages.
Well, one of the mindsets or beliefs that I began to have was that it wasn't possible to be financially successful and also be partnered in love. Because what I witnessed is my mom got really financially successful, and at about that same time, her marriage fell apart.
Okay.
And I'm not saying it was causational, but it was definitely like those two things happened at the same time. Mm-hmm. And it was, as a young woman, I witnessed that, and I saw how expansive my mom got afterwards, financially and career-wise. And then I just began to associate. And then I attracted all these girlfriends when I moved to New York who were all single and really successful. And so what I decided is, I really want to be partnered and to be financially successful. And I don't have examples of this in my life of what I want, but I'm going to go out and find them. And so that's what I really recommend is when you have a belief that you're working on overcoming, whether it's a belief that I can't make it financially doing what I love, or the only way to have security is to have a job, or whatever your belief is that you're wanting to unravel, consciously decide I'm going to find people who go against my belief so that I can prove myself wrong. And so that's what I did. I went out and I did a yoga teacher training, for example, with Colleen and Rodney Yee. Mm-hmm. And I just really admired their relationship. I'd taken yoga with them a few times. I admired their relationship. I really admired their business relationship. I saw their prosperity and that they were partnered romantically really beautifully. So I decided to sign up for their 300-hour yoga teacher training so that I could immerse myself in the possibility that I could have that too. And about a month after I graduated from that yoga teacher training, I met my fiance.
Love that. Prove yourself wrong with examples. Sure. Go out there and do the detective work. Great. Are you teaching yoga, or that was just an experience you wanted to have?
I did teach for a little while, and I just, I am such a freedom girl. It was really hard for me to have to show up at the same time in the same place every single week. Mm-hmm. So yes. I don't teach anymore, but maybe I will someday in the future.
Freedom is a word that peppers your book throughout, and that is, I think it's on the forefront of most of our minds, of us people that are trying to fall in love with our money. We want that financial freedom, and can you talk a little bit about freedom as it relates to money and time, I suppose, is a key factor there?
I mean, there's your emotional relationship to freedom, to money, and to freedom, but to money. But then there's also the relationship between time and money. And to be truly financially free, meaning you don't have to work anymore in order to earn money. Like, you don't have to show up to trade hours for dollars. Mm-hmm. You need to have your passive or residual income greater than your living expenses. And you can create passive and residual income many different ways. Real estate investment, I did it through building a network marketing business, investing in paper assets, affiliate marketing, online stuff. There's lots of different ways to do it, and I talk about that in my book in pretty in depth. But having that financial freedom allows you to free up our most precious asset, which is our time, and to disconnect time from money, because that's the biggest trap there is to be on that rat race wheel of, I only have a certain amount of time, and therefore I can only make a certain amount of money, but if I work more hours, then I'm tired, then I can't even enjoy the time I do have, and I certainly can't enjoy the money, and it's like this, la, 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 la.
Yes.
So what I recommend is to look at what are your living expenses? Like, what's that monthly nut? And once you figure out what it requires for you to live on a monthly basis, then you can figure out your freedom number. And your freedom number is the amount of passive or residual income that you need to make in order to cover your living expenses. And when you want to create financial freedom, you can either increase your passive or residual income or decrease your living expenses, or ideally both, so that those two things can come into balance faster. And that's how I created financial freedom, was by both decreasing my living expenses and simplifying my life, because I value time more than I value stuff, and increasing my passive residual income.
Love it. And you are doing like a course, right? Is this...
Yeah.
This is in conjunction with the book? Is this stuff that we will learn in that course? And how can we take this course?
So it's called A Course in Having Enough. And it's a 2-hour live online event that I'm teaching September 24th. And you get it for free when you order the book before September 24th. And I have guest teachers Marianne Williamson, Barbara Stanny, and Amanda Steinberg, who founded dailyworth.com. So they're all joining me as guest experts. And you get it for free when you order the book at moneyalovestory.com.
Okay, so we have to go to moneyalovestory.com, not Amazon, to get
You can
this.
go to Amazon to get the book, but you just go to moneyalovestory.com to type in your order number from Amazon, and then you'll get access to the book, to the course. Or you can buy the book at your bookstore and just type in your receipt number at moneyalovestory.com.
Oh, fun. That's a really fun bonus. I love it. One more thing that I wanted to ask you that I actually wrote down, because this is like my favorite part of the book, is the financial avoidance prescription. I hated that section, and I loved it because I was just like staring at myself. I'm like, I don't want to read about this, but I think I need to read about this. You're talking about just avoiding the avoidance, that is my method of dealing with uncomfortable things.
Yeah, it's very common. It was certainly my method of dealing was avoiding it altogether. And what I found was that avoiding my financial life did not help improve it. In fact, it was totally the opposite. And as we talked about, what we put our attention on grows. Mm-hmm. So I knew I wanted to improve my financial life, so I knew I needed to engage with it in a loving, conscious way. And so one of the things, real simple, I started doing was checking my bank account balance every morning and spending a little time in gratitude for what I had, either financially or just the abundance in my life that showed up in other ways. And then the other thing you can do is sit down, and you might need somebody who loves you unconditionally to help you with this, but sit down and write out all of your debt, write out how much you make on a monthly basis, write out how much you spend, and get really clear on your financial snapshot. And again, it's just a snapshot. It's just a moment in time. And it's the reason to get clear on all those things is because you can't get where you're going unless you know where you're starting from. Just like when you're using a GPS, if you don't have the current location, it can't give you directions. Mm-hmm. So if you want a new financial reality, you just have to get clear and honest with yourself about where you're at right now. And by the way, one of the best ways to release and heal shame is to tell the truth about how you feel and what the truth is of the situation is. So writing out all those numbers is really helpful. And then you can start to build a plan to move out of debt or move into a brighter financial future. But you can't do that unless you know where you're at first.
Yes, shame.
That's a big one.
That's just the big, glaring thing that I think all of this is related to. You talk about avoidance, and that's really what it's about, is avoiding those shame feelings. And it's pretty obvious that that's not going to help. But these little tips and tricks, to me, they're so helpful. It's just a way of being present to what is. And I love that your very first step was just getting online every morning and looking at your bank balance. Like, that's a simple, doable thing that we can all do.
Yeah, and I was really, I had to start, really, I can't think of the word right now, but remedial. I was really remedial with this stuff. So I want you to know, listening, if I can figure this out, you can figure this out. Because every cell in my body was like, I don't want to deal with it. I want somebody else to come save me. I'm really not into this. And the fact that I, right now have a #1 selling book in the finance category on Amazon is shocking to me because of how resistant I was. And my dear friend and mentor, Barbara Stanny, says that the degree of resistance you have around a certain thing, of doing a certain thing, like dealing with your money, is proportional to the degree of power that's on the other side of that resistance if you're willing to move through the resistance. So the more resistance you have around your financial life, the better news it is, because the more powerful you have the capacity to be in that area of your life.
Ooh, that's so good. I love that. And congrats on your book. It made it to a bestseller status already?
Bestseller on Amazon.
Wow. That was fast.
It was fast, yeah. I know.
Woo. Congratulations. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to me. I always ask people what their one tip is for living a kick-ass life before I let them go, and you've given us so many amazing kick-ass money tips that I'm just going to keep it basic. You can answer that about any aspect of life. Just your one
kick-ass tip. My one kick-ass tip is really to know that you are enough, and that you always have been and you always will be. And that heals everything.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Much love.
You too. Thank you.
Peace.
Bye.